Hi everyone, it's Jenna from Wildcat Welcome's Board of Directors, and I am so excited to be here to host our last podcast episode for the summer. Welcome to Before the Arch. Today we have with us Elizabeth Lenahan, a faculty and residence. She's awesome, and she's going to help tell us all about the professor and how to seek help from professors and how to not be scared to reach out and seek help. Would you like to introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about your role here on campus and what students can expect.
Sure, I'm happy to do that, Jenna, and thank you for having me. So as Jenna said, I am a faculty in residence. I live in Elder Hall, which is in the north area of campus of Northwestern, but I'm also a professor in the writing program here, and I teach first-year students really frequently. I teach first-year seminars. I've been teaching first-year advising seminars for almost a decade now. I love working with new students, whether they're transfer students or first-year students, to introduce them to the university and to all of the many amazing resources that we have. So, like I said, thanks for having me, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I possibly can.
Awesome. Yeah. I was wondering if you could talk a bit more about faculty and residence, because that's such a unique thing to live among the students. That's just always been very interesting to me. So I'm wondering if you could explore more about what's that and how students come to you or how you go to students in that way.
Yeah, there are not that many of us on campus. I'm one of 5 faculty in residence at Northwestern. We are kind of interspersed in different places throughout the campus, and we're here really to try to kind of help students better understand that faculty are people too. And we have a function and a role within the dorms and communities we live in to try to kind of intermingle academic and student life, and also bring programming to students to help them to feel supported in their dorms and in their sort of lives away from their classes. So it's been a role that I've been in since the fall of 2019. So much of that time has been during the pandemic, and a lot of the programming done has been a little bit weird as a result of that. But I will say that my favorite thing to do, and this was pre-pandemic, but we're looking forward to doing more of it this year, is hosting students in our apartment. We have dinners. We sometimes invite other professors over for dinner. It's just a great opportunity to sort of get to know students, and for students to get to know professors in slightly less formal contexts, and just to kind of talk about interests outside of the classroom.
That's awesome. I once knew a student my sophomore year who was sick, and a faculty in residence she knew brought her cookies. It was very cute. It's not COVID. So thinking about that, what kind of support can students go to their professors, both in faculty and residence and faculty just outside of living off campus too?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the most obvious thing that faculty of all types, whether we're living on campus or not, are here to provide is academic support, right? And that's not just, I think students sometimes think that that's about, well, what do I not understand, or what am I not, feeling on top of in the class I am taking with you right now, right? But that's just the tip of the iceberg, I think, in terms of the sort of academic support that most professors are sort of prepared to provide. We can talk to people not just about the content of our classes, but how to succeed in them from a process point of view, right? Tips on studying, tips on, how to get started writing a paper if you're confused or not being able to come up with ideas. We're really also well positioned to talk about, what other places on campus students might go. This is a campus that is sort of full of so many resources and so many different offices where students can get help or learn about summer opportunities or, do so many things. And, faculty know about a lot of those things and can point students in the right direction if they themselves can't help them. And the other thing is that, you can go to professors who you've had a class with before, or you're interested in possibly taking a class with in the future, just to learn a little bit more about what it is that they teach, or what other classes that they would recommend you take if you really liked their class. So those are some of the, sort of academic things that professors are really well positioned to provide side, as a faculty and resident and as a faculty member who also works as a first-year advisor to incoming students, I feel like I also more broadly am really happy to talk to students just about the transition to college. What are the struggles and what are some of the things that they have questions about? And I'm always happy to answer as many of them as I can. And I'm also always happy to point them in the right direction when I don't have those answers. And I think that most professors, honestly, are really happy to have those types of conversations. Certainly any professor who either lives on campus or works as a first-year advisor is someone who has sort of self-identified as wanting to help students beyond just with whatever they're doing in the class that you're teaching them.
Yeah, I feel like once you make that transition to realizing that professors are there to help you, it's kind of everything kind of gets easier after that. Like the first time I went to office hours, I was terrified. And then I left with, why have I not gone to more office hours? So I think making that switch is like important. And if it can happen earlier, like all the better. Thinking about office hours, what advice would you give to students who might be nervous to go to office hours and or connect with their professors?
Yeah, I mean, Jenna, exactly what you just said in a way, like so many things that it's easy to get anxious about. And we get anxious too about things like that, right? When I have meetings with really high up people in the school, I get anxious, but you're more nervous leading up to it than the actual experience is. The experience itself is never as scary as the feelings leading up to it. And that more generally, just professors want you to come, right? We have office hours because we're hoping that people will take advantage of them. So we really, really do appreciate when students take the time to come with questions, to come just to introduce themselves and to feel like, like to get to know you a little bit better. I will also say, it's fair to be nervous, and that there can be ways that you can kind of ease your way into, I have this big famous professor who I'm a little bit intimidated by. Maybe it would be better to start off by having a conversation with the TA, right? Or maybe I can start my help seeking with, peers, right? By going to the Writing Place, which is a place on campus that I also do a lot of work with, and getting help from people who feel a little bit less intimidating at first, and then moving into segueing into the discussions with the people who might feel a little bit more intimidating. I will say, as far as the Writing Place goes, one of the things that's really helpful about it as a resource is that, not only can you get help from peers there, because the students who work in the Writing Place are juniors and seniors at Northwestern, but that they can also help you identify, well, this I can't answer. This would be a thing that you could talk to your professor with during office hours. So I think that sometimes one of the things that makes students scared about office hours is that they don't know what is appropriate or what it is that they should ask. So talking to other people or other students to find out, like, well, what would be a good thing for me to talk about during office hours can be a good segue or step in.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And then I guess my last question is, what advice can you give for students as they anticipate coming to Northwestern and the workload may be different, either more intense or less intense than they were used to maybe in high school or other institutions?
Yeah, the first thing I would say, and I think that you're right, sometimes it's the lack of intensity or lack of structure that makes it so hard to navigate. I wouldn't say lack of intensity, but the lack of structure that I think comes with starting college, right, versus being in high school, especially, is really striking. And it was one of the things that stood out to me the most when I started in college. I had so much free time suddenly, and also, very few obligations, right? When you're not living with a family who asks you to make dinner or stuff, that's it. Suddenly you don't have anything you have to do for anyone, and you've got all this extra time.
I can watch TV in the middle of the day.
Exactly. Yes. So make a schedule is my number one piece of advice. But don't feel like you have to make yourself some sort of terrible draconian schedule that leaves no time for fun, right? You want to schedule breaks. You want to schedule downtime for yourself into that schedule. You want to make sure that you're prioritizing things beyond your classes, make time to socialize, make time to sleep, make time to exercise and stay healthy. All of those things are super important. And alongside that, I would say, especially in your first quarter here, find places and people and times that you like to study. took me a while when I was an undergrad to find like the spot in the library and the spot in our campus center where I was really comfortable and just liked being there. But it was transformative once I did, because, my dorm room, it turned out, was not a very productive place to study because it was too social. And, that's true for a lot of people. For some people, it's not. For some people, they find that they can get a lot of studying done in their room. So take some time to sort of explore the campus and find those places. And once you find them, make sure that you take yourself to them whenever, you are going to try to sort of sit down and concentrate and get some work done. Because I think that it is really true that it's hard to do that in just any place or space on campus. And so allowing yourself to know, like, I have to create a ritual around this and make it something that I'm doing on a regular basis.
Absolutely. I think finding a spot to study is like such a key part that like no one talks about, because for me, once I like found my spot, it was so much easier, but it took me like maybe 2 years of college to like find that spot. And then it changes too. It's like, if I'm studying, it's like a quieter spot. If I'm writing, it's like a cafe, like it moves all around.
Yeah. And you need to like start to learn those things about yourself if you don't know them already, right? Like, do I like complete silence? Well, it depends on what I'm doing, right? And so sort of just trying to experiment and find those places, I think is, your first year is a great time to do that.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the questions I have. Do you have any other advice or anything else you want to say?
I always have plenty of advice, so don't hesitate to find me with it if you have specific questions. But I really just want to welcome all of you to Northwestern and let you know that we're so happy to have you here, and that I hope to meet many of you, whether you're living in the North area or you get a chance to take a class with me or one of my colleagues in the writing program this year.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank you for coming on our podcast. Obviously, you've offered so much advice. And as you said, just knowing that professors and faculty are real people, I think is such an important thing to realize. It makes all of us less scared. So thank you so much for being here and being such a great voice for these new students. That's all for us. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Before the Arch, and we'll see you in the fall.